What's up, Nerferders?
What's
Welcome
up?
back to the Nap. It's been a little while.
It's been a minute. Yes, it has.
I changed something and I can hear myself in my headphones, and it is really messing with me right now.
Oh no.
I,
Oh no.
it's so weird. All right. So we missed last week. My fault. I was working. Unfortunately, work stole a lot of my time, and I'm feeling like crap today. But I
You and
was
me
like, you know
both.
what? The show must go on.
Yeah,
Um,
because stuff actually went down last week.
yeah,
So
yeah. We had a
we got to
lot
talk
that
about it.
actually happened. Um, I'm gonna be right up front here. I am not caught up on virtually any media except for The Boys. I did a pretty good job of making sure that I was watching the new episodes of The Boys when they came out.
Mm-hmm,
I think
mm-hmm.
they've only released 4 up to this point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so far they've all been really really good.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
beyond that, I haven't caught Mulan, and based off of what's
Still
been
haven't
going
caught
on,
Mulan,
I
really?
still haven't caught Mulan. And based off
Oh
of
my
what's going
gosh.
on, I don't know if I'm going to. Um,
Yeah, man. Now that we know what we know.
So
Mm-hmm.
this is the part. I think, is Mulan the first thing up on our ticket right now?
Well, I was just remembering about the boys. So hold up, give me a second. Are we going to talk about the boys a little bit
We'll
today?
talk about the boys a little bit, but I feel like Mulan, it should be top of our story, or it's top
A-
of our
a-
storyboard here real quick.
Absolutely. Let me just drop an image right quick for the boys so we can
Throw it
have
on
it
in there.
prepped, and then we will and then we'll here we go. So
Well, so let's go through some background on one of the previous episodes that we did. I think it was the last episode that we did. We were talking about how Mulan, well, Disney released that Mulan would be gave us the free release date, not necessarily the exact date, but they gave us the time frame of December to expect
mm-hmm.
when Mulan would release to Disney Plus without a paywall, without the $30 premium or anything like that. And
Right.
um, I was I was on the side that wasn't really going to have that much of an effect. Really wasn't going to do anything. Hey, cat,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna.
Mm-hmm.
There you go, you asshole cat. Um, yeah, he's gonna knock over everything that I've got just because I started talking. Oh,
Exactly. Just
exactly.
because. Mm-hmm.
So I didn't feel like it was that bad of a move on their part. Like, it wasn't great. Like, it wasn't a good move for them to release that information, but that
Mm-hmm.
was under the assumption that I had that the movie was going to be good. Um,
Yeah.
and so far, the that was like kind of the one thing that I didn't really consider at the time, is that if the reviews had come out and they had been strong, I felt like it wouldn't have been a bad move, because that would have increased people's want to actually watch the movie, and might have been enough incentive for people to pay that $30 premium to get on in there.
Right.
But that
Right.
doesn't seem to be what's happened. So now I am falling into the crowd who might actually wait to watch it for free, because the reviews have been coming in so poor. Like, so far, from what I have seen, it is the worst reviewed, and is the lowest rated Disney remake out of any of their animated features so far, and that's pretty
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah.
Because Aladdin was a thing.
I know. I know. And I did watch it. And I feel like there's two conversations to be had. First of all, I can give you a non-spoiler, my take review on the movie. But
Go
second
for it.
of all, even after hearing that, there's another conversation around Mulan that we have to cover on whether or not you should support this movie in general.
Sure.
Uh, but first of all, Mulan, I did watch it. I had some family in town; they wanted to see it, so we watched it. And at first, I liked it. At the beginning, I liked it. I liked the actress. I thought she was great. I loved the set pieces and the cinematography and the landscapes. It was all gorgeous. It was all gorgeous. And we had talked about, we knew that they were scrapping some things. They were scrapping the music,
Yeah.
or
Well,
the
the new
singing.
songs.
However, though, the melodies of those songs came up in certain spots, and I did appreciate that. They were scrapping, what was it, Mushi, the little dragon,
Mushu.
um, in Mushu. However, there was a phoenix that would show up every once in a while to kind of guide her, and I was like, okay, it's kind of similar. But then, and then they added something else. They added chi, and they said that this girl had strong chi. But women aren't supposed to have chi. Only the men are supposed to have chi. And I was like, okay, so this is going to be a little different. We're going to see guys with strong chi doing stuff like, hidden tiger, crouching tiger, hidden dragon, or House of a Thousand. Why am I saying House of a Thousand Corpses? The Flying Daggers, the Flying Daggers movie. That's another real big one. Or Hero. Yeah, when you see all this. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking House of a Thousand Corpses. I was thinking the Flying Daggers and Hero. You see those
House
movies.
Of Flying Daggers.
House of Flying Daggers. There we go.
Yeah.
So I was expecting to see a lot of that with the guys, and then she was going to be this one woman who could do it as well. And it seemed that the only other woman in the movie that had a lot of chi was the villain witch. And the story was kind of like, if you let people know that you're a woman and you have chi, you'll be villainized for it. And at first I was like, okay, it's a different storyline, but I kind of like it. And that was all in the beginning. And then it just went downhill, man. I mean, this movie has Donnie Yen in it, Jet Li in it, Jason Scott Lee. So at least I was thinking, at least when it gets to the battle, we're going to have some cool battle, some cool fight choreography. None of that. The battles are the worst thing about this movie. There's no battles. It's just like, I mean, it literally, there's a scene where it's like, here we go. Here's the big battle. And then Mulan gets lost in like the forest and the mountains. And then when she comes back, the battle's almost done. And you're like, what? She just like leaves. But you have all of these awesome martial artists, which all of their movies are great, but they get no chance to shine. There's no martial artists like, one-on-one fights in this movie whatsoever. And when you finally get a chance to see her chi, it's not some cool choreography. Oh, I lost you, Seth. Are you coming back? Or you just had to... Did I lose you? Oh, no. Sad. We lost Seth. He just got so mad that Mulan was so bad that he's just done. He's just done with it. He just doesn't want to be a part of it. There he's back.
I'm still here.
Okay.
All right, we're good.
So yeah, there was no fights. It was just, there was no choreography. And instead of her just having this awesome fighting ability, she doesn't. She just has magic. She is the Rey of the Disney princesses. She has no training. She can just fight but then it doesn't even give her a chance to show off fights. She just has magic. And it took away from everything that I mean, I didn't do the whole, I'm going to watch the old Mulan before I watch this one, because I didn't want nostalgia, getting in the way of my review. But if anything I remember from the original was that she wasn't some girl with magic. Like, she went and she had to train and she had to learn and she had to be as good as the men. And then she had to rise above the challenges. That doesn't happen in this movie. She just has magic. She has magic. And no other people have magic except for the witch on the other side. And that's it. That's the whole movie. And it was just really, really bad. Really, really bad. And I would not recommend it, even before we talk about the controversies around it.
So that was kind of the one thing that stuck out in a lot of the reviews, is that it took it away from it being something sort of where it was she could learn, like she could sort of learn, like she had to go through these hardships. She was still human, and she had to go through the exact same training that the men did, but she did it. And like that was what the original film was about. I was like, it was really about like equality, and she was just as capable, if not more capable, than a man would be. Cat, you've got to stop.
Right. That wasn't the case with this movie.
God, give me a second here.
Oh, it's the cat. It's the cat that needs attention.
Stop, dude. You can't be
Long-time viewers of this show know all about the cat.
I can't believe it. He is a destructive force of unmatched.
The saga of Seth's cat.
Oh my God, he's Like he's completely fine until I start doing a podcast, and then he's all of a sudden he's like, I'm not getting enough attention right now.
Yeah.
Diva. Like that was like, it's interesting that you can compare her to Rey, because I think like when I think back, that's kind of like one of my main problems with her character is that, let's see, why I compare it to like Indiana Jones. And this is a weird comparison, but stick with me here.
Okay.
Indiana Jones is a very relatable hero because he feels like he's brought down to earth in so many different scenarios, where he's a guy who he gets the hell beat out of him throughout just about every movie. He goes through a lot of crap. He just keeps going. Like he just keeps going. He's not an expert fighter. Like he's not. Like he's kind of one-on-one. He doesn't win every single one of those factions. Like he needs help from other people. Like sometimes there's an external force who he absolutely depends on to save, especially in Temple of Doom, with the voodoo doll sequence. Like he needed help throughout that fight. Like it brought him down even further. But the big part of that was that the enemy that he was facing was tough as shit as it was. And so that handicap was just there. Like he won not by like beating the guy out, but because the machinery kind of like, you know what I'm talking about. Rey never has a moment really like that.
No.
Where she needs help. She's not brought down to earth at all or anything like that. Like she can use the force without any training. And to a certain point, it's like, and they didn't do a good job of explaining that away. But that is kind of what a lot of the reviews seemed to allude to. Now, I watched spoiler-free reviews, so I didn't get a lot of spoiler information, but a lot of them mentioned that she seemed kind of like this unstoppable force without any real build up to it. Like she didn't like it wasn't earned. And having that whole chi, and like having you explain it as chi sounds like it's like, okay, doesn't matter what your gender is, you have to have these superpowers in order to be considered equal, even though they're going to demonize you for it. And that just seems like it's completely against what the original Mulan was actually for.
And I was fine with it at first, because at first they said that only men have chi. And I was like, okay, so we're going to see a lot of men with this power. We're going to see a lot of House of Flying Daggers. We're going to see a lot of Jet Li and Hero. We're going to see a lot of wire kung fu work that we see in all these other movies, but only the men are going to do it. And then there's this woman who now is rising up and she can do it. So if that was the case, then I wouldn't like be against it as much, but it wasn't. Like none of the men were doing it. And in fact, it seemed like nobody else could, and nobody but Mulan and the witch. So it was less about equality and more just she's a superhero. Like she is literally a superhero, not a young woman stepping up when her dad couldn't and representing her village. She is a superhero.
Was there kind of like a fate or destiny tie into it of some kind?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And it was like there was a tinge of, women are strong and they shouldn't hide. And I get that, but when you put that and pair it with a superhero story, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. And the only time you see anybody else do something close to that is when the villainous army runs up a wall every once in a while. But that's it. Otherwise, it's Mulan doing magic and it's the witch doing magic, and the witch is just what she would become if she decided to be evil. But that's it. They're literally superpowered beings and everybody else isn't. And then on top of that, there's just nothing fun to watch. Like I was like, okay, I'll let it go as long as there's some really cool war sequences or something. Nope. None of that. None of that. And in fact, this picture that we're looking at is the most fake picture ever. Because immediately when she decides she's just going to be a superpowered being, the first thing she does is sheds all of her armor and just goes into battle with nothing but her robe on. That's it. Like, no, it's not just that she has superpowers. It's that she needs no piece of armor at all. So any footage, any pictures that you saw of her in armor getting ready to fight, not in the movie. The only time she fights is out of armor in a robe. If only to triple down on the fact that she has superpowers and there's no way she could get hurt on the battlefield to the point where she doesn't even need armor. It's ridiculous.
The big problem with these Disney remakes, I think the worst thing that you can do with a remake of a property is mess it up when the original property still holds up. Yeah. And what we're dealing with the animated features is like the animated features do not age quite as poorly as, say, like an old live action film. Like the visuals there can be updated a lot more gracefully than something that was filmed on a camera that wasn't HD, didn't have the capability to do it. There's a lot more effort that needs to go into that. An animated feature, like honestly, like you could go back and you could watch them, and it's like it's an animated feature. You're not expecting it to be like human, like lifelike quality or anything like that. There's not that expectation. And so when you go in and you watch these older cartoons, it's really not that big of a deal. I felt the same way about Lion King when it was coming out. There's like Lion King still holds up. Like it didn't really feel necessary for them to remake it at this point. It just feels like a cash grab.
Yeah.
And with the Lion King, they didn't, from what I can remember, they didn't really divert off of the original by much at all.
No. Other than "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" in the middle of the day, but that's about it.
Sure. It sounds like here they diverted by a lot.
So much.
Man.
And not for the better.
No. And when you're dealing with a property that has not aged out. It's not like you could still show, like you could release Mulan now with its animated style, just bump up the pixelation, just bump up the pixels, just make sure that the quality is high definition. You don't have to change the animation at all. It would probably do okay. It would probably do completely fine.
Well, and what's the point of casting martial artists if you're not going to have martial arts in the movie? Like, I mean,
Donnie Yen of all people.
Donnie Yen
in your movie, and he's not doing a bunch of kung fu.
Right. The only thing he does in the movie is show off some moves while the warriors watch in like training. There's no fight. There's nothing. And it's just like,
who does he play?
He plays the commander.
He played the lead because it was Jet Li who was playing the Emperor, right?
Right. Oh, and also he's dubbed, which is weird. He's dubbed. Like you can tell whenever he's speaking, it's not him.
Doesn't he?
And I don't know if that was a health issue or something, but he is heavily dubbed. It's weird. It's very weird. And it like took me out of the moment every time I saw him. I was like, why is he dubbed? I mean, he's not like heavily English dubbed, like there's an accent, but he's definitely dubbed. It's weird.
Like, is he dubbed with his own voice, or is he dubbed with somebody like?
I mean, if he is, it doesn't sound like his own voice, but it's definitely not him. Like, of all the characters are speaking, and they're being recorded with boom mics or whatever they did with him. They either put his own voice later, but it sounds weird, or they just dubbed him over with somebody else. But it's weird.
I'm watching just a little snippet of an interview with him. He speaks fluent English. Like
I know he does.
Fine. Like, so I mean, I was like, I remember him in other films speaking English just fine. Why would
right?
Something
it doesn't sound like him at all. Something must have happened. But okay, so on top, I know we got other topics to talk about, but on top of this, if even with that, so you had some people saying this is crap, you should boycott this movie, it's a terrible movie. But then they started saying you should boycott it for another reason. And it was actually two other reasons. First, it involved the lead actress. And she made some comments about how she was pro Hong Kong police. And that's been a very sensitive issue. There's been a lot of coverage around that. And people are like, well, you should boycott it because of that. And that was gaining some traction, but not a lot of traction. A lot of people were just like, I don't really care about her personal views. That's just her. We're still going to see the movie. So then the second controversy hit, and it was that at the end of the movie, when in the thanks, where especially where like a film starts thanking the places that it filmed and everything like that,
Sure.
people noticed that Disney thanked a number of government entities in Xinjiang, which is a certain region in China that is known for its concentration camps. And it's heavily known and heavily been reported that this is where China has several Muslim concentration camps where they work.
Uyghurs?
Yes, where they. Well, I've seen different ways to pronounce it, so I'm not really sure. But it's Uigurs. So Uyghurs, Uyghurs, something like that. They're held in detention. They're technically called re-education camps, but they have been reported to be work camps, death camps, and sterilization camps. Meaning, they don't want these people. They don't want these people reproducing. So in June, it was reported that evidence had been uncovered that China was forcing the women of these camps to be sterilized, and other things. So this is not fake. It's been confirmed. These camps exist, and this is the region where Disney filmed, and they specifically thank this region in their thanks, whether they were filming there for tax break purposes or whatever. But it's Disney's getting called out for going above and beyond to satisfy China with their latest production, and people think they went too far. And now even China is banning any press about this movie in China because of all the negative press it's getting because of this, what they've uncovered here. So it's backfired completely.
Pretty big ball drop in Disney's favor. And again, I was on the side where I was like, yeah, waiting for the free version isn't something that they're gonna run because released that date. Well, it is now, because there's I highly doubt people are gonna want to pay to support the film, at least in mass, to make up the funds that they actually spent or that they lost by not being able to release it in theaters. At least not in the States. I'm sure it hit theaters in other areas, but I'm sure. Actually, there's some theaters here in the States that are open to where, even in our area, where the film's probably available. But yeah, that's.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's even. I mean, in the States,
there
is no theater option. It was just going to streaming, but in other countries, it was going to theaters. But yeah, I mean, Marvel and Disney have always been known for catering to China a lot, whether they're throwing in a random whether they're throwing in a random Chinese character that never gets spoken of again, like Age of Ultron, or they're filming on certain spots in China so that they can get tax breaks and they can get more recognition in China. They've been called out multiple times for catering too much to China, and now it definitely seems to backfire because China isn't even it's not doing well in China as a film. And then on top of that, China doesn't want any news coverage of it at all. So, I mean, it's just a dumpster fire all over the world. And and then on top of this, they publicly thank the region, which is just insane. I would think that if whatever reasoning you had to film there, you would bury that. And burying it in the credits is not a place to bury it because everybody sees the credits. So
you're not even burying it at that point. You're really just being like, hey, what's up?
What the hell? What the hell, Disney? I mean, come on, man. If you're going to make a film and you're going to bastardize it this much, I mean, there's just no silver lining. It's not like, oh, it was a good film, but they filmed it in a bad place. Not even that. It's a bad film as well. There's no silver lining to this. It's a terrible film filmed in a terrible part of the world, and even that part of the world doesn't like it. So you've won nothing.
So stick to the animated version there, folks. It sounds like that's going to be the only thing that's kind of a saving grace here is that they didn't delete that from anything.
Yeah. But why don't we talk a little bit about The Boys, since you have seen that, and that's a quality thing, at least in I don't know how you feel about it, but
I'm loving it.
Have you seen? They've released what, 4, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
So they
great.
released. So as soon as last week when the show debuted, or let's see, 2 Fridays ago, I think, they released the first 3 episodes, and they kind of picked up pretty much just a little bit. It doesn't seem like a lot of time has gone by.
A little bit, but not a lot.
Previous season, yeah, just a little bit. There's they address some of the questions pretty quick. Not necessarily like, let's see, how do I talk about this in like a spoiler-free version? First of all, if you haven't seen season 1, I recommend it, because honestly, when I watched the trailers for The Boys, it got me really excited for a show because they made it seem like it was like a government agency who was meant to punish superheroes when they get out of line. I think that line is even mentioned in the trailer. I think Butcher's character, Carl Urban's character even says that in the trailers, but that isn't necessarily the case. It's kind of off from where the trailers are at, and so it really explores kind of a very dark outlook for what I feel like modern day superheroes might have. This is the closest representation to how I feel a corporate entity controlling real life superheroes would actually get. And so I absolutely recommend the show. So we're going to talking about season 2 so far. Very tough. I don't want to mention any spoilers.
We don't have to go into spoilers. No,
not right away.
No.
So out of the first 4 episodes, I would say that maybe 3 and 4 are probably my favorite, because the first 2 episodes of any show where there's a continuation from the previous season is going to be kind of like playing some catch up.
But I think it's smart. They're not
filling in some of the gaps, like explaining a little bit at least as to what happened between the 2 seasons, and that makes perfect sense. But they don't waste a lot of time. No. I'll tell you that. Like, they really don't waste any time jumping into this new season, getting us excited again, and they do an excellent job. They keep with like kind of like the corporate cheesiness that you would expect out of something like that, and how the 7, which is, for those who haven't seen, is the reference to the main group of superheroes that this company represents. Just like these. They've just been run ragged at this point, honestly, and they've all got their demons, obviously some more than others, but they did a great job of just kind of like seamlessly moving us into season 2 without feeling like there was just a huge gap where a lot of explaining needs to be done, which is an advantage of not dealing with like younger actors who are going to age out. Right away. I don't know how much time they had between the filming of the first season and the second one, but
I'm pretty sure they were filming before the first season even dropped. Like, as soon as it was over, they were like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we've already been filming the next season." So Amazon was very confident in it.
Well, they jumped right in with picking up off of the previous plot point, which, you know what, I'm just going to talk spoilers from this point out. If you haven't seen The Boys yet, go watch it, and then you can come back and watch this after it's uploaded. So we pick right up off of the spoiler alert. This is your warning. They pick right up on the super terrorist plots, and we see some of the superpowers there. Kimiko's brother gets brought. Like, I'm talking about the first 3 episodes, just in kind of like a big span, because when I finally got the chance to actually sit down and watch, and we watched the first 2, and then a couple days went by before we could actually watch the 3rd, and then caught the 4th like on the day of release, finally, which was good to be able to do that. Finding out that they only released 1 episode on that day, and that they're only doing 1 episode per week until the finale, that kind of sucks, because they gave us a lot right there at the gate, but.
They did, but I think it was smart, because this is the first time Amazon has done this. They've always dropped it. They've been like Netflix, where they've for the majority of Netflix's stuff, they've always dropped it. And people were kind of like, "Hey, man, do you not notice that Amazon and that HBO and these other ones who've been doing these high series for a while are not doing what you're doing. And the boys might be big, but people would only talk about it for a weekend and then they'd move on to the next show. Whereas a mini series on HBO, they like Watchmen, they talk about for a month. So I think it's smart that Amazon's dropping it weekly. However, instead of, saying, okay, we're going to string this out as long as we can string it out, they gave you 3 up front. So, a good, almost fourth of the season up front. I think that's smart. And, these next ones will come out on a weekly basis. And, I think they got to do what they got to do to keep their brand on people's lips.
Well, and they also got renewed for a 3rd season, and I think keeping people's interest for as long as possible in between those season gaps is a really good way to go about it. And also, like, I haven't seen if they've released how many episodes are actually going to be in this season, so we don't know. Are we already halfway through? Like, are they sticking with 8 like they did the first season? Do we have a few more? I think it would make sense for them to kind of keep it at like the lower number. I don't know why, but just having for these long episode shows where we're looking at like an hour per episode or so, I think keeping it about 8 is a pretty good number. Going anything beyond that, you start running into like the Marvel Netflix series problem where felt like they were dragging the plot out just a little bit too much, and it was way too much for Iron Fist, but it was a little too much for some of the others.
Yeah, that's for certain.
I'm loving that. I really like the chemistry between Huey and Starlight's actors. They're doing a really good job. I really like that they didn't immediately resolve all of the problems that they had as a result of Huey's lying to her throughout basically the whole season. And there's still some animosity there, but they both still have a common goal, and so they're working towards it. Huey's still kind of lying, as he would say, to keep her safe, but it's going to cause more problems. We still got I laughed my dick off when Patton Oswalt was voicing Deep's Gills. That was absolutely hilarious. And they had I don't know if you've seen the show Happy, with Christopher Maloney and Patton Oswalt playing the cartoon. It reminded me of that right away.
Oh, for sure.
But it was so funny. And now we're leaving off with season 4 of him having a pretty dramatic loss with that whale scene. That was pretty great. I love the blood and gore in the show because they go a little over the top, absolutely on purpose. Sure.
Every time someone's head blows up, it's like a giant gallon of blood. It's crazy.
The Jello budget on this show must be insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, there all of the elements that I liked about the first season of the show are back. They kept all those elements, but they're keeping them kind of spicy. Their original intention to take down Vought did not work out. They didn't get to do it on time.
Nope.
Now they're kind of having to now Vought has taken a huge blow, revealing Compound V, and them being able to kind of twist it around. It's exactly what I would expect out of a corporate entity where they run into a scandal.
This. Just denial. Just denial and move on. You've trusted us this far. Don't believe this fake news. We're just as concerned as you are. Oh yeah, they're playing that card just like a corporate entity would.
Oh, and they're playing the political card super. They're abusing Americans. I don't want to say xenophobia, but fear of terroristic threat.
Definitely.
They're really milking that. I mean, it was pretty bad before even the super terrorists were in there, because the scene in the first season, when the plane went down and Homelander let it go down, didn't even try to save anybody. And they played that off as, get us into the military. This will never happen again. We need international power. They're just continuing to play off of that. And now we've got Stormfront here, who is I was on her side a little bit until season 4, until episode 4. I thought she'd be kind of a cool.
Well, I'm guessing until at the end of episod 3, where she just drops some racist shit and kills.
The end of 3, and then throughout 4. But yeah, through the first 2 episodes is all right, cool. She's just going to be kind of like the corporate bad child.
Right.
She doesn't
She's
care.
not a lap dog. She'll talk out.
And those things are all still true, but in the worst ways.
Yeah, she's like clearly a white supremacist.
Yeah, very white supremacist. The whole thing about her seeming immortality that they're kind of like teasing into is pretty interesting. That'll be neat to see.
Right, that she's actually at liberty and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but they kind of alluded to that when Mr. Earl was talking to Homelander about how old Compound V actually is. And so like because they were portraying those comics like she was already an adult back in the 70s, and she doesn't look like she's an ancient human being whatsoever. So I mean,
right.
We're gonna see some new stuff there. We saw a little bit of humanity out of Black Noir, and I gotta say, I feel like Black Noir is gonna end up being one of the good guys at some point here.
Wait. When did you see humanity out of Black Noir?
So when he was watching the news story about it looked like he was watching it on a phone, and like the news had come out that Compound V was the reason he was a superhero, and you could see him clearly crying.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean he has good traits. That could just mean that suddenly he realizes he's not special.
Like, hear me out here. So what turned him on to Butcher? Like, what turned him on to looking for Butcher?
So your theory is that he's looking for Butcher maybe to partner up and less to hunt down the dog that everybody wants?
Well, see, so Black Noir, as far as Homelander's concerned, has always been his like the go-to. Like, he's completely loyal, doesn't have any problems. Well, after Black Noir realizes maybe he's been like this corporate stooge for how long? Like he was created in a lab like to go through all this stuff. Like, he's not really a hero. He's a pawn in some corporate. And Butcher didn't do anything to him. Like there wasn't anything that Butcher necessarily did to kind of, at least in my opinion, that Butcher did to kind of turn Black Noir towards him.
Sure.
Like he didn't, and Black Noir didn't really seem to have much of a connection with Stillwell. So that didn't really seem to be a thing. I didn't see a scene where Homelander was like, I need you to find Butcher and take him out, even though that is completely logical because Homelander clearly made some sort of promise to Becca that he wouldn't kill him. That's the only reason that Butcher was left alive. It could be Homelander just like working that on the back end and having Black Noir take him out instead of Homelander doing it himself.
Well, you found out why he didn't kill him because in the beginning, because Becca made that
she was going to kill herself in front of her kid.
Yeah, she saved him at that point
right now.
Yeah.
What's the kid's name?
The kid? Crap.
David, Daniel, something.
I
don't remember.
Little kid, Butcher child.
little Homelander.
I don't know. Oh no, yeah, he's not even Butcher's child. Little Homelander. Yeah,
and I love that was kind of like the dynamic that sort of forced Becca to be like, Becca has clearly connected with this kid. Obviously, she should. She's a mother, and having to choose between your son and your husband, who she still very deeply cares about, but knowing that your husband will be like, he's a suit, like it's basically racism. It's a conflict with racism to some degree. And not knowing that Butcher isn't going to embrace that kid at all.
I mean, I think it was less racism and more like it's not. I mean, she told Butcher that she was raped, and Butcher's been struggling with that the whole time. You know, he saw the video of them two walking into the closet. He didn't really know what happened, but he knew something happened. But even still, even if she, you know, even though she was raped and it was against her will, it's the son of his adversary, of his you know, of his opposite, and he tries to tell her that, oh, of course, you know, he's your child, I will love him just like I'll love you, I'll learn to love him. But then, I mean, yeah, it's just, she's just like, no, you know, you won't. Be honest, he's the son of Homelander. There's nothing that you could never get past that.
And there was a big component surrounding like Vought's interest in him as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they're living on a compound that Vought is very heavily guarding. So I mean, there's
Right.
definitely there as
Right.
well. But I mean, it sucked. It sucked watching that for Butcher because like he clearly wanted her to go and get the kid. Like he was on board at least to a point where he was willing to give it a shot.
Right. And all this time he thought she was dead, and then now he knows she's alive, and he gets there. Like, I mean, they didn't waste too much time with him getting there. Like, it wasn't a full season's arc of him trying to find this compound. Like, he gets there pretty quickly, and then just to see that all get shattered for him, like, she knows him and knows that her child would be in danger, despite the fact of them all running from Homelander, and chooses to stay. I felt for Butcher. I thought that was a very, hard situation for them to be in.
I was really feeling for him when he had the menu or the Crayola menu that he stole from that restaurant, and he wrote down like what he could remember about the location.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was why it made me really mad when Mallory just handed him like information on where she was. It's like, oh well, that neat little thing where he was like we didn't get to see him like really search for it or anything like he didn't get to like scramble to see if he could figure out
Right.
where that would be. They just kind of like threw. I understand that he probably didn't get enough information to really get any reliable info on it, and maybe the plot isn't going to be steering in a way to where that would have made sense. But that is just kind of like, he just kind of.
I mean, I still don't know what the rest of the season holds, and I like that. I really didn't want a whole season of him going and looking for that place. It was like I was a little shocked that they brought him back there so quickly. But then I was like, okay, well, if that's not his arc for the show, what is? And I got excited for the rest of the show. And I like that we've seen development from some of these other characters, like Queen Maeve. She is in no sense an innocent party or a good guy, but we see that she's living in fear under Homelander like most other people. Homelander killed the last person that she had any kind of connection to, like just brutally killed that person. And she's been trying to hide this relationship with the woman she loves for a long time, and afraid that if Homelander found out, he'd just kill her as well. And Homelander is just like nobody trusts him, nobody likes him. He's just all powerful, and he's not that smart either. He's just a ticking time bomb in so many ways that he'll kill anybody. You give him a recruit that he doesn't like. He killed that Daredevil recruit like that. He'll just, if it's not perfect, he'll destroy it, and nobody can trust him to make the right call.
Not even perfect if it wasn't his idea.
Oh, like, yeah, he's got that pride issue too.
If he didn't make the call, if he didn't come up with it, he's gone. Like even something as small as calling them super terrorists versus super villains, like he jumps right on that. Right. Like he has to be in charge, which is why this issue between him and Stormfront is going to be really cool. Because she doesn't care. She doesn't care if she's got power. She's all about just selfish ambition. I don't know that she cares quite as much about getting to the top of the 7. I think she just knows that she'll get there.
And the way she talks to him doubles down on the idea that she is older than him, that she is Liberty, and that she's been around for a while, because she's not afraid of him. She's not aspiring to be him. In her eyes, she was him before he was him. Like she's already been here. And I believe the higher ups know this, like they've rebranded her, and that's why they're like, we don't answer to you, Homelander. Like we don't, what's his name? When Homelander was like, you should have consulted me. And he goes, I don't know you shit. You put us in a horrible position.
You are not valuable. You are not what gives this company value. It's Compound V.
Right. And so clearly they've rebranded her. They know who she is, and they're bringing her back. And she's looking at Homelander like, I was you, at one point, and my brand got messed with, and now I'm back under this new name, and she's, oh, what did she say? You have a country that loves you or whatever. You have fans. I have soldiers. And I was like, that is such a white supremacist viewpoint, is the soldiers,
And it was
she
also like,
doesn't care about love. She cares about anger.
and it was also compounded by how like this new wave of like social media influencer that they've kind of put on her too. She even mentioned that you have to change with the time, man. God knows I did.
Right.
Like she's embracing like these new methods of getting people to like just absolutely devote themselves to her. And yeah, that's exactly what they're going for. It's absolutely a parody of like some of like the craziness, the crazy extent that people will go to for the people that they stand over, because that's what they're calling it now. I think it's a stupid term, but that's I love the direction that the show's going in right now. I love that they kind of kept the good elements. I love that we got to see some more out of MM. Like we got to see what his motivations were and why they were so strong for him. Like what was
great? At first, I was pissed off at him because he was being such a dick in the beginning of this season. And I get it. Like they've all been displaced. They've all been put on a wanted list. But I mean, like, no matter what Huey said, he was like threatening to beat him up like every 5 seconds. And I'm like, would you knock it off? We get it. You got the muscles, but he's struggling, and you do get a little insight into his life and everything like that. And they redeemed him a bit. But yeah, I really like him. He's great in this. But that is the one thing that I don't like about this season. And I'm hoping it's building up to something, but so far it has not built up to anything. And it's fucking Huey. I feel like he was so interesting in the first half of the first season. We see his motivations and him dealing with stepping up, not being the coward that his father is, not backing down. He's taking these baby steps. But he's just been, he gets some time with his girlfriend, for sure. But everybody, the bad guys, the media, the police, his own pals are beating the shit out of him in every episode. I mean, and he's got nothing, he doesn't have powers. He doesn't have heart. He doesn't have courage. Like
he's got a lot of heart, man. Like,
I don't know, man.
Like, we had the boat. We had the chopper that got shot down, and like his first thought was like, we need to help them out because nobody was there.
But he doesn't have any courage. He just takes it,
he's getting it though. That's kind of what we're seeing.
How long is it going to be till it's 4 episodes in plus the last season? Like I'm just waiting for him to explode. And yeah, he kind of punches Butcher, but he falls over in his own punch. I mean, if anything, he hurts himself more. I hope it develops into something, because if we go 2 seasons with him just being pathetic, it's gonna get old, man.
I think the episode that we just saw is kind of like the very end of that episode for him, where Starlight just kind of walked off on him, like, we can't do this. Mm-hmm. I think throughout this whole episode he was reaching kind of like that breaking point. Like he's realizing it's like this is kind of how I have to be now.
I hope so, because otherwise it's going to be him moping around for another reason. He lost another girlfriend. I'm really tired of him moping around, because everybody else on his team is like, we don't have time for your emotions. Get it together.
I think that's what he's realizing too. I think the next episode that we see, we're going to see like a big resurgence for Huey's character. I think he's really good. Not even a resurgence, because he's not resurging from anything. I think we're going to see him develop into more of that character, because it was a really interesting dynamic that MM actually brought up to Butcher. He's like, he's your canary. It's like he's how you've gone too far.
Yeah.
And if you get rid of him, how are you going to know when you've crossed the line? Like, I feel like that's almost gonna, like, those
Butcher was like, I don't have time. Like, he needs to fucking grow up like everybody else, and so I hope that happens. Like, I see both sides of it. I see MM's side and I see Butcher's side, and Butcher was just like, fuck him, just leave him. We got shit to do, and then they did step in and save him, but and that's the other dynamic I like too, is Starlight and Homelander, because Homelander knows they dated, and he called her out in the last season, and I'm like, how is she surviving? And then he almost fucking takes her out in an elevator. I mean, everybody lives in fear around him, and you fear that much more for her because she is a good person. Like you kind of feel for Maeve, but at the same time, she's fucked up like the rest of them. So if she goes out, whatever, she kind of deserves it. But like Starlight, you're like, you don't want her to get hurt.
Her dynamic with the Seven in general is really cool, and I can't wait to see how more of that's coming, because like A-Train's against her. The Deep is apologetic to her, but she could give a fuck.
Right. Well, he's only apologetic because the new cult is giving him attention, not because he's earned it.
Yeah. But yeah, having somebody like A-Train being up against just fucking terrifying, because that fucker could just drop in whatever the hell. Like she's living in a world of absolute anxiety, and she expressed that in the previous episode. She's like, I'm always looking over my shoulder, waiting if Homelander's going to kill me. Like she doesn't have any allies. She does not have any allies in that building, and she burned like the only friend that she had there too. Right. With what did they call him? Chameleon? No, it wasn't Chameleon. Gecko.
Oh yeah. Right.
She's kind of turning into somebody who's just like, you know what? I just want to burn this to the ground now.
And that's why I want Huey to step up as well, because I get it. Huey was like afraid for her, but the girl that walks around with fear all day doesn't really need someone else to be afraid for her. Like she's got all the fear, he's not going to win her over by being more afraid for her. He needs to step up, man. So I'm hoping he steps up. But
we don't know until we see some more episodes. We got another one coming on Friday, and I think that one's going to be a good one. What do we got next?
This is going to be longer than an hour episode because we got more stuff to talk about. Oscars. Last week, some big stuff happened with the Oscars.
See, I think we can keep this one short because this one was just stupid.
We can keep it short, but there's some things we got to cover. So Oscars came out with this new thing, this new diversity thing. The Oscars So White movement has been around for about 5 years now. And, we've seen certain things like them phasing out some older Academy members, or some Academy members that haven't been around for a while or haven't been active for a while. They're phasing some of those out. That brings in some new blood. But now they've brought up this new these new standards for only one of the categories, which is the Best Picture category. Yep. They've brought in these new 4 standards, and in order for a Best Picture, or in order for a movie to qualify for Best Picture, they have to meet 2 of these 4 standards. Now, immediately people are like, "This is wrong. You shouldn't put art in a box. You shouldn't limit art and make it, you have to make it into check boxes. This is wrong. It's so wrong." But then other people were like, actually, there is no way a film could not meet this. Like, a film would have to try so hard. And then even if they tried hard, they couldn't not make 2 of these 4. And that led more people to say, maybe the Oscars aren't really doing anything. Maybe they're just kind of fake flagging it so that they could make themselves look better than they actually are, because there's nothing about what they've released that films aren't already. There's no current film out there that doesn't match these 4 standards. And I wanted to show them what they are right quick. And I'm going to give John Campea a shout out because he's been the one that's covered this the best. So I just decided to use his the way he broke it down, and all credit goes to John Campea. These are his images. This is from his podcast, but he covered this the best. And he broke down all 4 standards. So standard A, we don't have to read this whole thing, but standard A is in front of the camera. If you want your movie to be nominated for Best Act or for Best Movie of the Year, you just have to get 2 of the 4 standards. Standard A means
one of only 3 criteria here.
Right.
which is
have to get all three.
Which is
yeah,
even
you don't even have to get all three. So at least one actor has to be of an underrepresented racial or ethnic group. So as long as you have one Asian person, one, then you're good. Or one
black guy,
one black guy, one Middle Eastern person. That's it. In a significant role. Now, a significant role does not mean the lead. Every movie has like 5 to 8 significant roles. If they could be considered a supporting, doesn't even mean they're the second lead. They're just a supporting. That means a significant role. What film doesn't currently do that? I don't know. The story must center
given how like ambiguous that is now, with how mixed everybody is now, like it's so easy for them to meet that standard.
Right. The story must center around women, LGBT people, or racial ethnic group. If the first one doesn't meet, or the disabled, if the first one doesn't meet, you could go for the second one. Or 3, at least 30% of the cast must be actors from at least 2 of these underrepresented categories. Now, somebody saw this and they were like, well, what about something like 1917, when you're talking about the British Army, who's all white? It's not going to meet these 2 things or these 3 things. That's fine. You still have 3 other standards you could qualify for.
Yeah.
Standard B is super simple. It's all behind the camera. 2 or more department heads, which is, there's so many department heads behind the camera. It's not just these, which are director, cinematographer, composer. It's anything. 2 or more has to be female, LGBTQ, disabled, or part of a racial or ethnic group. That's crazy easy. At least 6 other crew members must be from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group. Do you know how many crew members are on a movie? Hundreds. God. And this says 6.
Ridiculous.
6. At least 30% of the film's crew must hail from 1 of 4. Again, you don't have to meet all of these. You have to meet one of these to get this. So that is super simple. And it gets even simpler with standard C, which is the distribution and financer. So not even the people that made the film, but the people that distribute it, the studio that picks it up, has to have at least 2 interns from an underrepresented group. Interns. You know how many interns work at Sony? So 2 of them have to not be white. That's crazy. That's so crazy.
It's honestly like the fact that they put this out here at all. It's almost insulting.
It is.
Really think about it. Like it's insulting how little effort they actually put into it.
And then the fourth one is the final one is even worse. Some of the senior marketing, publicity, and distribution executives are from an underrepresented group. It's the most bare bones, vague, easy to comply thing you can ever expect. There is no current film or past film that wouldn't meet any of these things. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's like the big problem here is that it shouldn't be the Oscars who are trying to level out these standards. It should be the studios that are making these movies that are pushing for more inclusion. It's like, it shouldn't be like, oh, well, don't do this or you're not going to get Best Actor or you're not going to get Best Picture. How many movies are going to give a living shit about that? Like if somebody is if somebody is leaving people out, if somebody is excluding or discriminating against a racial group in the process of making their movie, like not winning Best Picture isn't going to stop them from doing that. It's not. It's right. Absolutely
and
not.
I'm not saying you should like. There's a lot of people.
I can't think of too many films these days that are being made now that don't meet those standards by default.
Sure. In front of the camera, yeah. In front of the camera, especially with history things and regional history, you could see how a movie would have a bunch of white guys, or a movie would have a bunch of black guys, or a movie would have a bunch of Asians. Depending on where it's filmed and what it is and the time period, you could see how a lot of on-screen camera might not be diverse. But this doesn't require you. It's all the background stuff. But here's the thing. I am all for giving more people in the industry inclusion and whatnot, but this just feels fake. It just feels like they do the bare minimum
It absolutely is. It is the lowest amount of effort that they can put into it as possible.
Six crew members. That's of hundreds
out of a few hundred, or maybe over 1,000 people, especially with the video. Easily over 1,000 people in the process.
Depending on some of these movies, yeah. But I mean, there's no way a film would have to try, and then the studio would also have to try to miss these. Like even if a film didn't do any of these, the last two aren't even in the film. It's the studio and the marketing. So I mean, there's no way a film would not meet these, and it's to the point where, yeah, like you said, it's almost insulting. And I'm sure, and people are being a little insulted. Like, this is supposed to help us. It's not helping.
The amount of contractors that are involved in making films too. It's not like all these people are employed by the studio. We're dealing with a bunch of other different firms, especially they're fighting for the lowest bid as much as they possibly can.
Right.
So yeah, like it's you're going to be dealing with a huge employment pool, and that employment pool has probably roughly the same. As far as behind the scenes, probably has roughly the same racial percentages as you would in just about any other percentage pool that you could pull from, any other population pool that you could pull from.
Yeah.
And so it really just kind of comes down to, this is just, it's a royal backfire for a really weak attempt at trying to stop the bad press towards the Oscars. It really just made it worse.
I mean, how does it change if everything stays the same? Like, if all current films
put into this,
there's no change. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, that ended up being a really short topic. I guess we can move on to the next thing, which is Tenet. Man, Tenet's not doing well. Although people are saying that it's actually a good thing. Tenet's doing pretty well compared to what they thought, but it's just, people aren't coming out to see this, and it doesn't help that but the biggest markets in America are closed right now. And, the ones where these places, these studios get their most money, the LA, the San Francisco, the New York, they're not open. And so Tenet has earned in its two opening weekends has earned just under $15 million in the States. And with the overseas, they've earned about $200 million. And the budget on this film, before you even get into advertising and everything, was about $200 million. So yeah, they're hurting on this, man. They're hurting a lot. Have you seen Tenet? I can't remember. Have you seen it?
I have not. I was not in the pool of taking the shot to go to a theater right now to give that a go. Yeah. I'm considered high health risk. I have underlying health conditions that I don't want to risk taking COVID in. So I've essentially been on lockdown since the lockdown started. Even when things started opening back up, like we're still only getting food to go from places, and we're limiting that. No buffet style or anything like that either. Like there's a lot of limitations there. When I go to work, I'm normally going to server rooms by myself, but when I'm not, I'm in a mask the entire time. Mm-hmm. And that's only if I absolutely have to go. So unfortunately, no, I have not been able to get out to the theaters for this one. Looking at it though, it looks like it's worth going to. I mean, if you're just going to base it off the reviews, I mean, we got a 74% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 69 on Metacritic, which isn't great, but it's not terrible either. And then a 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb. So mostly well received.
I mean, not. I guess. I mean, those figures.
Averagely
sound good, but I think most people don't like it. It's not. It's I mean, I did go see it, and I went to the Alamo, and the Alamo, for their credit, are doing a lot of good things. They're separating people in the theater. You've got your masks on the whole time unless you're eating, and it seemed like people were following those rules. It was nice. They're doing temp checks. They're doing exit by rows. They're they're fogging down the each cinema after people leave. I walked in there in the middle of a day and felt like the theater was empty. It was so because they just haven't seen a lot of people yet. Jeffrey Miller over here saying, I haven't seen it yet. I'm just not ready to sit in the theater. So I looked at all of our local theaters and felt like Alamo had the best stuff. That doesn't mean it's great. I mean, they still have the caveat that, you know, this isn't foolproof. You could still get sick. But Maddie and I haven't done anything. We haven't gone out at all other than to the grocery store. And so we were like, well, it's Christopher Nolan film. If we can be separated, we'll go see it. And I'm not going to lie, man. I have always been a Nolan defender. You know, I remember when Inception came out and people walked out of that film saying that was way too confusing. And I was like, were you paying attention? Because it wasn't to me. I was never on that trip of you got to see it multiple times to get it. I thought that movie was brilliant, that it was very well made. I thought for how complex it was very well written, had the perfect pace. It told you everything you need to know. And I think he's been a brilliant a movie maker and writer. But this movie was convoluted for convoluted's sake. And I feel like it was a 4-hour movie that they trimmed down to whatever the final count was. And it just went at breakneck speed and didn't take time to tell you what was going on. And you just had to trust that the people in the film knew what was going on, even though they unrealistically just caught on to it like that. And then on top of that, it had terrible sound mixing. There were tons of moments in the film where you could not understand what they were saying. And I thought that it was a problem with the speakers in the cinema, but every other person that have seen this movie says the same thing. Just terrible sound mixing. I mean, the movie wasn't bad and it looked great, but it just wasn't compelling and it was super convoluted. And to me, there was no payoff. So I didn't walk out of the theater pissed or anything like that. But I certainly didn't walk out of the theater saying, man, if there's a movie you got to see that's going to get you back in the theater, this is it. Like I thought I was going to say. So I'm sorry that you are someone that should not be going out, but at least I can tell you that you're not missing out on anything right now because it's not the movie that they thought were going to bring everybody back.
Yeah. I don't know. Based off of the reviews, I thought it was worth watching, but I'm in a situation where I'm kind of comfortable now knowing that if I want to watch anything else, it's going to be through streaming or purchasing it when it actually comes through. Sound mixing problems. I'm optimistic about something like that because as that complaint comes out, that's something they can still fix. So they can still make those adjustments for when it's released on streaming platforms. But the fact that they messed it up that bad beforehand, especially considering how delayed the film was, that makes it just that much worse.
Well, Jeffrey Miller is over here saying what I've heard, the same thing, that Nolan did it on purpose. I mean, I agree. I seriously doubt Nolan and the master filmmaker that he is messed up, and didn't take time to make sure the sound mixer was doing their job. I agree that it was on purpose, but it didn't pay off for me. I thought it was it was part of that. We got to make this super fucking confusing and convoluted. And then, yes, I understood the movie by the end. It's not like I walked out saying I don't get it, but I got it, but I didn't care. There was no payoff for me. There was no man, as soon as I got it, oh my God, that movie was great. There was some cool moments, but there was no Inception moments. And there was no big ending that was like, man, I went through it all. And that ending just brought it home. It was just done. It was just done for me. And I was like, okay.
Well, I'll have to give it a shot when it's available for streaming or for renting on Amazon or something like that.
But they are going to keep it in theaters for like 2 months because Warner Brothers is like, eventually these markets are going to open up, and every other film except for Black Widow has moved and moved and moved. So if New York opens in the next couple weeks, Tenet's going to be the only movie out there. and people will go see it and they'll make some more money. But right now, Tenet is struggling because no one's really of the market, and that this is what highlights that thing of what people were saying at the beginning of the summer. Who cares if New York can't make it? There's plenty of theaters across the nation. Okay, but yeah, it's open in like 70% of the nation, and it's making pennies because A, people don't want to come out, and B, that's not the market that studios make money in. They make money at LA, they make money at New York. And when those places are shut down, they're losing most of their money. So we'll see what happens for sure.
It's about the best we can hope for at this point. Whoa, okay, what do you got here?
Well, you talking about streaming? I'll give you two things that I watched recently on streaming. One was on Netflix. This is a movie called Alive, and it's a Korean zombie movie. And when you think of Korean zombie movies, you think of Train to Busan and the recent sequel, which was Peninsula, which I also saw and liked. But this was a movie that dropped this week called Alive, #Alive. And I cannot recommend this movie more. It's an incredibly great film that centers around this kid and another guy and another person basically alone when a pandemic hits and everybody turns into zombies really quick. And what do you do when you have no one and you have no really any place to go? And it's a quick film. It was really compelling to me. It's really simple, but it was really good. So if you want a good zombie movie and you don't mind subtitles, Alive is great.
I mean, it's interesting. Just the thumbnail that you've got posted up in here.
Well, and this is why I didn't watch it at first, because I thought it was going to be this stupid social media thing, because he's got a selfie stick and everything. But it was actually the purpose of this image right here was kind of like reception. It was like a reception thing, and it's the main guy in the movie. This guy on the poster, he's like a big gamer and a social media type person, and he gets trapped in his apartment, and his family is out there, and he's alone, and utilities shut down, because you don't see that very often, where if everything goes to shit, eventually the water is going to stop flowing, and stuff like that, and the electricity and the internet and stuff like that. And so you see how somebody who's very reliant on other people has to deal with that. And there's some real good emotion. He's an incredible actor. I really, really liked his portrayal. So, this was a good movie.
Good stuff. You got another one?
I got another one, and we'll talk briefly about it because I know it's a sensitive topic, but we talked about it on a couple episodes before. And it was the Cuties film. It finally dropped. We talked about it about a month or so ago when Netflix dropped their horrible marketing campaign for a movie that did extremely well in the beginning of the year, and a lot of people were excited about it. Mm-hmm. They dropped a very terrible marketing campaign, and rightfully so. A lot of people saw that campaign and said, "What the hell is this?" It looks like a pedophile's dream. It looks like they're sexualizing young people. And then on top
of that, we've got politicians that are like writing letters about how they're posting
trying
about
to sue, they're trying to investigate it. Yeah, we've got a lot of politicians doing that right now. Oh, it's almost like there's an election around the corner. And of course, you hear about things like casting news, and how many young girls went out for this role, and then you see people online dropping certain clips out of context and saying this is the whole movie. So I'm just going to give my quick review on it. I did see the movie. We talked about it. I felt like we talked about it, and I read enough from the director and what she went through and what she witnessed and what she had hoped her message would be. And so I went into this movie hoping that is the message that it would portray. The first half of this movie is all about this young girl, and it was really intriguing. She's in a Muslim household. They're living in a low rent apartment complex in France, and they're going through some shit. Her mom, or her dad's not there. Her dad hasn't joined them, and the reason why he hasn't joined them in this low rent apartment complex is that he's marrying a younger, sexier bride, and he's not divorcing her mom. He's just expecting her mom to be on top of it, to be on board with it. And in fact, he even hired a guy to go into the master bedroom and dress it up and build it up and make it look super nice for the new wife, while the rest of the family lives in the rest of the apartment, which is low rent and looks crappy and feels crappy. And this is the environment that this young girl is growing up in. And she's witnessing her mom, and her mom's being bullied by other family members and other people in their community to be okay with it. Her aunt is forcing her mom to like call people and act like she's happy about what's going on. And this young girl doesn't understand this and doesn't like it. And she's 11 and she's dressing up, as young Muslims dress up, and she's wearing a lot of robes and stuff like that. And she's struggling with this. She's struggling to understand this. And on top of this, she's at a new school, and she's seeing some of the girls at her school, also in her building, wearing skimpy clothes and disobeying their parents and running around and being kids. And she starts wanting to be more like them. Then she finds out they're in a dance crew, and she starts watching things like that they're watching, not to call out certain people, but you see certain, dancers, you see certain music stars that are showing everything but what would be X-rated content in their music videos. She's seeing this and she's becoming more attracted to it, like her friends are. Anyway, that's what the first half of the movie is about. And I thought it was a really interesting, really intriguing coming of age tale. The second half of the movie is about her joining this dance crew with these girls, and she wants to bring something to the table that they're not doing. And they're seeing all of their idols getting more attention because they're dressing more slutty and stuff like that. That's not helping the group. So the new girl, brings twerking to the group, and she says, "This is the new rave." And she teaches the girls how to twerk. And it becomes very uncomfortable to watch. And I'm not saying you have to watch this movie. No one's making you watch it. But it's very uncomfortable to see young girls doing twerking moves and other moves like it. And there's two scenes in there, the scene where they learn it and the scene where they do it on stage. And both scenes are very uncomfortable to watch. But you're not supposed to like it.
That sounds like the gut reaction you should have is discomfort.
Yeah. And people are sharing those clips, but they're sharing very cut versions of those clips. There's the dance scene on stage, and a lot that's going around social media a lot. What they don't show on those clips on social media is the parents and the audience that are disgusted, and the girl breaking down on stage and realizing this isn't what she wanted to do, and she's ashamed of herself and she runs away. They don't show that stuff. Does it necessarily redeem that? No. And is the message of the film as strong as it should be? No. And does it center a little too much on those dance moves? Yeah. And I get it. It's an R-rated film. It's meant for only adults to see. It's not meant for kids. It's not meant to encourage kids. And it's meant to make you feel uncomfortable. And it definitely does that. However, I can't really recommend it, man. I went into it really hoping that director's message would sell, and it just wasn't strong enough. And then the film was just done. Like she felt bad at the end. She runs back to her family. It's over. And I'm like, man, if that was your message, it should have been more. I get it. Some people I've seen some parents that are like, hell no, I'm not going to see this. This looks like it's sexualizing kids. I don't need to see that. I've seen other family members, other parents that are like, yeah, this is what I'm struggling with on a daily basis. I have teenagers that are doing this, that are acting like this. This is real. and I've seen them relate to this movie. And I've seen people saying, hey, if you're upset with this, why aren't you upset with toddlers and tiaras and dance moms and the other stuff that's going on right now? Because that's what's going on. Somebody else was like, you know why you don't see a lot of those other, the real dance competitions? Because you're not allowed to film there. Because they don't want people filming so that footage gets out, because they don't want pedophiles having fun with it. Well, if it's something you shouldn't film, maybe it's something you shouldn't encourage, like if you can't film your kid's dance recital because it's too sexual and predators would take it and do terrible things with it, maybe it's too sexual, maybe you shouldn't be doing that to begin with.
It's absolutely disgusting. I mean, they're playing it for the drama surrounding the parents, but I mean, it's borderline child abuse, is what we're seeing.
It is. And people have said, they should have done this to be a documentary instead of a movie. Well, sorry to say this, but most people don't watch documentaries. And this director saw this, witnessed it, and combined it with stories of her growing up in the Muslim community and what a young black girl in France goes through. And she tried to make a movie that would, touch people and make them think about the real issues going on. And I commend her for that. I think it could have been stronger, but that's just my opinion. But it's definitely not a pedophile film. And I don't agree with people labeling people that have seen this film as pedophiles, because that's not the case. There was a message there. I just don't think it was as strong as it was meant to be. So that's my 2 cents on it.
I mean, it sounds like the message just didn't translate well over to American life, or to American experience. So
it translated, just not enough. It was there. I caught the glimpses of it. Jeffrey Miller says, thanks for watching it, so I don't need to. You're welcome. Yeah. But yeah. So that's that. Do you have any lightning round things?
I do. So I'm going to make this an actual lightning round. So we're just going to go through super quick. It turns out Carol Baskin is going to be on Dancing with the Stars, which is hilarious.
If she doesn't do a dance to that Carol Baskin song, then it's a missed opportunity.
Or at least Eye of the Tiger.
Carol Baskin. Oh, I know, right? There's so many things that they can do.
But the reason this jumped in there is that the family of Don Lewis, the man many believe to have been murdered and fed to tigers by Carol Baskin, is running commercials for every episode, and so she's gonna be dealing with that.
Yeah. Okay.
You brought this to my attention. I didn't know about this until you brought it up, but I started looking into it. But it turns out President Trump is open to a 4-hour debate with Biden on Joe Rogan's podcast,
or not necessarily on the podcast, but he would moderate it. Yeah.
That's what multiple sources here are saying here so far.
He actually said he'd be down to do it, which is hilarious. I would love to see that. Love to see it.
Turns out J.K. Rowling has another book coming out, which is the villain of J.K. Rowling's new book is a male serial killer who wears dresses, which I feel like this isn't real. I feel like this can't be real because that'd just be a horrible miscite from J.K. Rowling, considering the crap that she's going through right now.
First of all, if none of the J.K. Rowling controversy had happened and she was writing this, nobody would care. Nobody would care. In fact, people would be like, a new J.K. Rowling book? Hell yeah.
People would
and
care.
We've seen this a lot in other movies and books, but the fact that she's writing this story and she has been in the news and in the media so much lately for talking with her foot in her mouth is certainly not helping. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool science news. Scientists said that they have detected a gas called phosphine in the acidic clouds of Venus that indicates microbes may inhabit Earth's neighbor, raising questions of potential life beyond Earth.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Cool. And then my favorite part of lightning round news, which, like I said, we're just blasting through here. But today is I want to call it the official 19th birthday of the GameCube. The Nintendo GameCube. Released September 14th, 2001 in Japan. Released in November.
19? Wow.
Yeah. Released in November for North America, but it was, I mean, for Nintendo, your official birthplace is Japan. So,
wow.
So yeah, 20, damn near 20 years old, the GameCube. And it was my favorite gaming console as a kid. I have the most treasured gaming memories are on that console. And yeah, it's turning 19 today.
Great piece of hardware. I'm surprised you didn't bring up the Chris Evans story from yesterday.
Did we have a Chris Evans story yesterday? I was working again.
He accidentally Instagrammed out a dick pic, and he was doing some type of video, and it showed his camera roll, and there was the big old dick pic, and it didn't necessarily have his face, so it could have been someone else's dick, but it was certainly a dick pic.
I feel like that could totally be something one of his friends sent to him or something like that, and it was just on his phone.
Very well could have been, but his fans went crazy. His fans went crazy and just flooded the internet with pictures of him and dogs, so that anybody that kind of searched for this, like the hashtag or anything like that, would find pictures of him and dogs and not the dick pic. And so, like, his fans came to his rescue, which was kind of heartwarming. Although other people were like, well, this is really cool to see his fan base do this. I kind of wish they would do it when a woman's nude photo accidentally leaks out there instead of, searching for it and downloading it and stuff like that. So it definitely brought a good conversation up. But it also brought up resurfaced conversation about Chris Evans and how he's been known to have crippling anxiety. And he's talked about that a lot, and it was cool to see his fan base come out and just flood the internet with good pictures of him and try to just bury the dick pic story as much as they could.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that he actually got a therapist when he got the part for Captain America, because he didn't want to crumble under being famous. He wasn't prepared for that level of fame. So
yeah, he almost turned it down because of his anxiety. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see his fan base come out with that knowledge and do all they can to bury this instead of being like, look at my man's dick, So let's hope that when the inevitable next time this happens for another celebrity, their fans will do the same, even if it's a woman, an attractive woman.
Especially if it's a woman. Let's see that, because that's nobody wants to have their nudes accidentally released.
So good on you, fans of
Chris. Some people do want them to be accidentally released, but
sure.
Then how much of an accident it is kind of becomes the question at that point.
I think the funniest response was who plays the Hulk? Mark Ruffalo. He was like, with Trump in office, there's nothing you could do that could be embarrassing. So he's like, you're fine. It's a silver lining. So he was all like, there was a lot of funny jokes about it, but not at his expense, just trying to lighten the situation.
Worse things could happen.
Yeah, it was handled fairly well. So I was kind of impressed by that.
Well, let's end on that happy dick note. Well, Nerdfighters, this was a long episode, but I think it was a good one. Thanks for sticking in there with us. We appreciate the comments. Definitely keep those up. Hit us up in the comments below. Let us know what you thought about any of the stories, especially if you're watching this after the fact. Hit us up on social media. We want people to be a part of the conversation. And Josh, hit them with the question of the week.
Oh yeah, the question of the week. That's right. We
talked about prepared for that.
Here's the question of the week. Write your comment or write your answer in the comment section. Have you gone back to the theater recently? Now that theaters are open back up in Omaha, they've only been open for about a couple of weeks. Have you gone back to the theater, or do you plan to in the near future? With all the COVID safety restrictions going on right now, with some of these theaters doing, limited capacity and masks and stuff like that. Do you feel comfortable going back, or are you going to wait it out for a few months and wait for things to settle down? We'd like to know.
Hit us up in the comments. Let us know. Follow us on social media. Hit subscribe here on YouTube if you haven't already. Hit the like button if you like this. Hit the dislike button if you didn't. Be honest, we can take it. And until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya.